Very nice, yeah. Great. That's great. Now you need a lot of home language. Okay. 나는 모든 시기에 저는 사실 쭉 들어올려서 모든 시기에 간단한 진짜 좋아해요. 좋아. 이 전에 도도로 이 시기로 해서 한번 전봐서 이거 한번 있어요. 남배출이 정규성 그래와 근데 센터상 내제 또 내제 뭐 저시 센터상 뭐 내제 또 실시하고
맞아요.
근데 심지原来是你是觉得原因的，而是日记帮你写出的，就是也也就是其他的，整个世界的保险，是吧？这样呢，心开发经济，有的是他的全球生产的呢，你是那研究了嘛？一件啥呢？那这种都是的，是吧？
Yeah.
他的。yung wala din yung mga hari yo dele yung ngala ina kran na ha mo da da ni chan du sin ni da ma je ba shi shi ye ku be de an ma nya ba shi da de shi yo de es ba da si
We have been looking at these 8 verses of thought transformation. Some of you have attended those previous Sundays with that subject matter. The essence of all of that is to cultivate a kind heart of bodhicitta. In context of Buddha Dharma, we call this bodhicitta, the thought of awakening, thought of enlightenment. It is the highest state of mind one can generate. And if you have generated such an uncontrived altruism, then definitely your difficulties are exhausted. But also, in that context, those around you feel at peace, and sentient beings have a kind of like you, warmth towards you. So that those are the qualities of that special mind. And if one accomplishes that mind in this life, then all your goals will have been accomplished. Previous lives, so many lives, we didn't yet accomplish that. Well, I certainly haven't. I can talk about me. I don't know about you. Uncontrived enlightened thoughts. But the point of these 8 verses is initially to produce such a mind. And secondly, that once it's been produced, it increases. And thirdly, once it increases, it does not degenerate. Yeah. So many people, essentially speaking, approach me and say, well, in the context of this life, whether one is Buddhist or not, what's the essence of the practice? What does one practice?
And then I'm thinking of contemplating. There, five B. I think it's good. You easy to remember. And then if this message some people I have good feedback.
Feedback, yeah.
And inspire be calm. Some people remember. Be calm. Number 1, be calm. Number two, be kind. And number three, be patient. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And number four, be content. Be content. Number five, be intelligent. Share something for what?
Yeah.
Being otherwise being a being a the old never see that. You start using what's that? You can go. 한 가지 기회가 내디 전달될 거다. become condense만 기반 지어봤어. 이 convention condense 전달하고
Kind sige.
아 이거 become
Mm-hmm.
한때는 somebody 이 passion 딱 저거 보면
Mm-hmm.
그래. 얘네가 적시와 적시에서 얘네가 싫어. 있습니다. 그래. 다들 다들 전달이 신선한 다들 냠내 간대죠. 저회나 무슨 저회나 간대시죠. 이나는 딱 로전 시기에 전달이 신선 니나는 시기였다. 미행하는 거데 로전 시기에.
So these 5 points, it's good to know them and to be able to like enumerate them and then know the meaning. So be calm, be kind, be patient, be content, and cultivate wisdom or intelligence. So it's good to basically know those heading points and what does it mean to be calm, to be compassionate, to be kind, to be forbearing, to be patient, and also to cultivate contentment, and then to cultivate intelligence or wisdom. So it's good to know the meanings. And then the second point is, how does one generate them in this life? Really, that's what these 8 verses are all about. All of Buddha Dharma can be essentialized, or the pith of it, all is condensed into that. Yeah. So therefore, in the context of Buddha Dharma, cultivating calm or a peaceful mind, we talk about cultivating shamatha, single-pointed concentration. We can do this by focusing on the breath. But in the context of this life, why we need to cultivate a calm, mind, peaceful mind, because in this life, emotions come. emotions come and go. So it's very important to check when emotions come, to watch the mind. Sometimes one is happy, sometimes one's sad. And there are these kind of likes and dislikes. But most of this is coming from the point of view of I like it or don't like it, my desires or not, or I'm happy because I get my desires or not. But actually, the point is in cultivating mental peace to be able to just remain in the present moment. And in the context of Buddha Dharma, there's a path for that, there's a method for that, which we look at in terms of first observing breath and then counting the cycles of breath. Thirdly, remaining in the present moment. And fourthly, deepening that with the cultivation of shamatha, single-pointed mind. And then one can go higher into these states of vajrayana, refined practice. So the breathing meditation for placing the mind in the present moment is very good. You can use as a reference point music sometimes, birds, scenery, whatever. Anyway, initially what's important is to make the mind relaxed. Yeah. And sometimes if one is feeling perturbed or even agitated in one's home, just making a cup of tea and relaxing will do it.
And most people have nice house. You live in a very nice house, and your mind is not heavy, but only place. Then you can make cup of tea. If you don't remember nothing, you can do
Ribus tea.
They have lots of messages. You can read the mind. There are lots of messages.
Yeah.
You can read only the money. And then you drink tea. I think I like tea. I love tea. Drink tea. And I drink too much last year, and my blood pressure come up. Anything too much is not good, isn't it? Now I drink with my blood pressure. Lord do breathing meditation. And I think cold shower is very good for blood pressure. I went there. No. Kimura or Moria. Down there called on 6 count. First time was 10, 40. Second, third time. And then I coming back, next day, I checked my blood pressure. I had, before I had iron 160 or something, 4 ones, 120 or 130 something. But I don't have nothing for it. And then after the football and hot shower, cold shower, I checked my low one 70, high one 117. Wow, I was shocked. Whoa, this is good. No need either. I don't take a pill, right? I try to put less salt, not much drinking, black tea, English paper, and then butter, sugar, go down. No, drinking too much tea, make you problem. Now, a little bit, green tea. I love good tea. I share my experience in tea sometimes too much. You have relax your mind, but your blood will come up. September sim tu na ro ju nam je sam ne lo cha ko da ro dine ni wan je da ta ke da the concept da symbol ba da za wa che da da de da ni ngo na ni ngo da na ba ni ji ni cha ne ba da da na du le za wa do wa du yi da le progression da ji ji wa wa che ji do ne se ni za de ni du tan ne na do ni de le tan ni Miller or what you do, to do or what you do, do said the fellowship there or what you want to meet, to do let how means secure. However, me and Shinkon, severance is what severance, severance. And Kuyu, Yatalon should be Kuyu, Hama, Jogo to for what home Jogo to. 거의 와르면 저거 좀 특히 자 이제 지도는 기회는 그 공시에 맞는 차를 그래서 이 먼저 전부 잠드셔야 됩니다. 대중 시위차를 노정 지제는 아니까 우리도 잠들면 뭐 지제 당목과는 다른 시기에 신문을 이렇게 해서 따져 주셔서 이제 당제 내가 다 타두게 이기 때문에 인다 대단하세 타두 산에 보면 내 생기는 게요. 이제도 좀 산제를 하고 지금 들어왔다고. 진진. 이 노전 시기에 같이 유나미나 당제 기간이다. 이거 하는 이거 거절도 하는데 면치야. 내가 하고 있는 거. 면치고 왜 따는 거야?
In that sense, then if the mind is kind of perturbed or let's say a little bit projecting, then it affects the physical behavior. So in that sense, being calm mind's important. Second of the 5 is to be kind. The essence of that, of which is loving kindness and great compassion. And of course, even animals respond to that affection and kindness. And even, they help each other, support each other going through difficulty and, work out ways to remove suffering in the animal world, animal to animal, but also on YouTube and so forth. One can see cases of animals helping animals, but also animals helping humans. In that context, as humans, we are said to be better. And it is said that our innate nature is said to be loving, naturally. But we can see from examples of parents to children in environments where things are difficult that affects the person. So this highlights the importance of love and affection, which is the essential point of these 8 verses. Like the first verse states, with determination to accomplish the highest welfare for all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I shall constantly hold them supremely dear. Here it's talking about how your temporal and long-term well-being and bliss is dependent on sentient beings. Ultimately, if you want the goal of Buddhahood, then you have to take care of sentient beings more than you would respect the Buddhas almost. So this is it's easy to understand, but to practice it, it takes effort. It's easy to understand the point, but to practice that affection takes effort. Yeah.
근데 칠레에 미들은 근데 여와지 지기요. 땅 앞에 놨어. 에스로.
야.
맞습니다. 땅도 이 란주라 이제 거란시에 있는데 나 나로 심기 낭기 심기 당용 맞을다고 여와지 그 찍을 차고 찍을 당원 세지 오늘 또 이제 이어가 제거지 용기를 안 내고 이마 인버죠.
Now, as I've mentioned many times, over and again, important is to cultivate this loving affection to those that are our nearest and dearest, those that are close to us. However, even in that context, we still tend to have likes and dislikes, feeling close to that one, but not so close to that one. And until we cultivate a stable mind of equanimity, that's just our nature, that we're going to be like that because we have desires, attachment, we have aversion and so forth. Just this first verse of this 8 verses, the method is vast because it's reminding us in context of those that are close to us, how they helped you, how helpful they were to you. Once you recognize that, then a kind of a closeness or affection will develop in the context of how they've helped you. If you don't recognize that, how can you cultivate that closeness and affection? But then there are cases where those that we're close to, we don't even feel like we want to see them or meet them. And in some cases, separation comes to be, you think of leaving. And this happens between friends, but also sometimes between mums and dads, between parents. They separate. Why do they separate? Because their views are not in harmony and ill will is cultivated. Their views are not harmonious. Yeah. Yeah. And there are times within families where children can't stay with parents parents can't stay with children. A lot of this is coming because we're so fixated on this sense of I, clinging strongly to our idea, our view. But really, if we are able to cultivate mutual respect and love, whatever comes up, good or bad, no ill will come of it. It won't come about. And once again, this method of, if one can have this method of recalling how much those close to you have benefited you, then the mind can undergo some change, even if it's not affected immediately. One can remind myself that this person I'm close to is the object of my loving kindness and compassion. You know, if that kind of border mind comes in, where the mind discriminates, don't like, puts up a barrier, then you can kind of think. Because when we meet people first up, often if we get aversions, we can't recall how they've been kind in the context of past lives. So in order to acquaint oneself and bring down that border, it's important to think this person is an object of one's loving kindness and compassion. I'm encouraging us to say this like 3 times daily for 2 or 3 weeks, and then again reflect on the person. And what you notice is, and previously where you might have had aversion or a border, then you start feeling close to that person, even after a week.
What do you, that was the man your order? Because so the government or they were so sing sometimes you was master
and also, in the context of work, no one likes a person that has a very big ego that just goes after their own desires. You still have to have that notion of being close to other. And if I mean, there's no end to what we can talk about. The demerits of that, is it?
Subject is
So going through these different headings of the practice, one has 2 months break from these classes. If you really sincerely meditate on these points, change can come. Right. Third one we said was be forbearing, be patient. This third one of cultivating patience. Some people think that, if people are harming you, bullying you, whatever, that you're just going to kind of take it, kind of in a passive way. That's not the meaning of forbearance at all. Not at all. Forbearance is that you don't lose your mental ballast. You don't lose your mental peace under adversity. And this brings in the 5th point of using wisdom, knowing how to respond or answer to someone with intelligence. It's not just that you bear things yeah.
보고 정모이나 유시야.
Vale.
가리나 지 강에 지 태버다. 강에 태그라 내가 써야 돼. 강에 태그라. 이런 것만 내셔. 먼저 배회 지나는데 다 승리도 와. 내가 깔래 가는 거였어. 내가 다디 민딩이 저 다더라. 내가 내가 지금 고두부터라. 깔래 가는 거. 그다음 내가 써야 돼. 강에 태그라. 하고들 하는 방법이 하여튼 내가 대강 보스비 두자시 물론 내가 로드 두자도 내가 되는 깔래 가. 그저 미신다 내가 이거를 통해서 내가 din내 주는 내가 그저 나 주는 din내 도요. 아 주다 야 그냥 강의 통하는 거라. 그래서 그 강의도 지 매사게 내가 전주 심바도 있는 안에 쌤이 좀 놀러도 좀 보시면 뮤 갈래 가면 심 갈래 가요. 일단 내가 나가지고 그거 나 코로나 되는데 이거 강의도 동네지. 아니 동네지. 대토리는
Is there Parwa?
갈래 냠뇨사 유차 야야야 도로.
And it's often the case that when we meet difficulties or sufferings with work or friends, we want to leave that situation behind, or we just leave it and go on to another. But that's not often the solution. This Tibetan word for work, le ka, means that actions that are difficult. It's quite a good word in Tibetan, really, because it means just by the very fact that you have to act, difficulties come. When you begin the job, moreover, you might have problems with your boss, with your colleagues, with your job. And then you might think, oh, what about those people over there? That job looks better. I think I'll change jobs. But when you change it, you find it's the same and or worse. So there's no job that's not going to have difficulties with it. When you look at the bodhisattvas, these courageous beings, although they might get physically tired, their minds are never tired. Their minds are always blissful. That's kind of a higher state. But what's being said is that the sufferings, the difficulties, we have to be able to bear them, to forbear them, to take them on. And if one slowly does that with one's experience, one can improve. Yeah.
아니 전에 간단지라 봄 야단만 신배 강에 뭐 주제로 봄 야단 신 야우레스나나 아니야 니마다 강에로 니마다 봄신 방부츠 누마들 강에 그 체로 야 수직 düdü잖아 dü야데 마나냐 베티 니후로 아니 강에 아니 셈 간단지라 셈이 네 이용화 인타로 to do man. Yang to do time, ya single man, deliver. Kange, this summer, Kange, how did you see a chamba that there was a children? How did you deny your early ballet? Dinner ballet is how the dinner tambuching you, and the uncle has to use it. Hello, Jonah, Sarah, Dito, Paging dinner cheek comes in the chat, the level you're in chair. Kalekane, dinner chair with the treatment. Lodging on the sun she there, pretty there. Can you imagine? Kalekao, Kalemajan Dukai.
Yeah, so that word leka in Tibetan, the context of getting exhausted by one's work, getting tired. But then a second type of forbearance, patience, is that we have to put effort into our spiritual practice, our meditation. And then sometimes we try to sit, we get problems with our knees, problems with our back. Then there's the problem that you don't know how to meditate. Then there's the thing that first you can't subdue your mind. Then you subdue your mind too much and you fall asleep. And then thirdly, you're too distracted, to these outer excursions. Then fourthly, you're trying to control them too much. And then there's the challenge of cultivating loving kindness and compassion when you come to class, and studying and then just coming for 1 or 2 classes and then giving up because it's too difficult. I studied like 15 years in the monastery, and 1 week we had continually 3 to 4 classes always going. It took a lot of effort, but I look back on that and I think that was actually quite a happy time. If you want to get a result, you have to put the effort in. Yeah, so after those 15 years of going to class, one has those results in one's mind at hand. Now, in the context of cultivating forbearance proper in this life, there are 3 types of patience. Patience in the face of harm. Secondly, being patient with difficulties when they come up, being able to bear them. And thirdly, patience with regards to one's Dharma practice. And these are really nicely highlighted in Shantideva's text, Training in the Ways of the Bodhisattva, particularly the chapters on concentration and patience. The chapter on concentration is very good. Cultivating a countermeasure to self-cherishing or self-interest. These are really special kind of chapters. And of course, one can train by the means of these 8 verses, but it's good if you study those texts. Yeah. Now, contentment and wisdom, cultivating those, we'll look at later, but first we'll meditate together. Yeah. Shinga. Yeah. Now, in terms of meditating, some of you here are new. There are sequential steps we go through to meditate, and it doesn't take a lot of time. If we look at these 4 areas of first, setting the correct intention, motivation. Secondly, focusing on the breath. Thirdly, counting the cycles of the breath. Fourth, remaining grounded in the present moment. Those 4 headings, if you do 3 minutes each, it's just 12 minutes of your time each morning.
我甚至想了很多把戏，甚至看见了很多，这个这个国外看一下看过来，这个不能有介绍是吧？今年是。
Firstly, cultivating our correct intention that today actions of one's body, speech, and mind will solely benefit sentient beings, all sentient beings, so that if you have the opportunity to help other, you do your best to do it. With the motivation, you can close your eyes for more potency.
Öyle neden 강의 양이 그렇게 이제 야고 싶으면 좀 맞으시. 이제 강의 있잖아요. 그거 신을 다니면서 걔는 다 지켜서
So, whatever comes up in the context of this life, the good in terms of being able to help others, or if difficulties come, problems come, making the resolve not to lose that beneficial intention.
딱 가고 이제 이게 생각상 가고 그래서
Now I should feel joy, rejoicing that you've cultivated a warm concern for others, altruism. Rejoice in that.
哦，当我弄准了，弄准这个你给怎么的，你给我就是我这个，给我的中国电脑，正常我查一个，对吧？那弄准我不去看吧，写的我认那5年的，现在你是我查到那么多，你是我那我只了那个，你就是我买的，很多买的，好细节。你说当嘛都不查一看，我怕当的这个我买的话当什么买的话当那个什么这个怕，那边全是当时这种查着，这是是啊，我们这是叫那5年的，这个没做那个。
Still with the eyes closed. Now just simply recognize breath, recognize inhalation, exhalation, and make sure your posture is relaxed and upright, because if the posture is straight, the mind is clear. So just recognizing breath initially. Secondly, when you breathe in, recognizing the breath permeating the whole body and just noting any tightness in the body, any defect. And similarly in mind, so when you breathe out, any physical tightness or any mental worry is dispelled.
你了，你说是俺台湾人，你这就是去路卡的那地方吧，就是会，可以呢，就是就是干巴的那个，也放假，你那么去那个，我们这个老师还是，俺这是你稍微开始考的，拉，拉，这个放到自己。哦，有天就肯定就这个吧，打个那，那年我另外我就那是那个这个呗，就是不买这个就把这个钱，平常不是多少钱，对，这是上单，前两天上单的这另外是为了那个感觉，就是让我们做这个，不同主义的那经济主义的那种偏头呢，也为了物中的这上单呢，你就把。
If one has conviction, if one has faith, you know, whatever your persuasion and faith, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, one can think one's teacher is there and one is invoking the blessings therein. For those that don't have a particular faith, just the notion of the vibration of the waves of like particles, because particles change, don't they? And they can affect change in the context of the breath, so that when you breathe in and you breathe out, that is taking place. And if you have faith that there are such positive, or there are such blessings when they fill your body, and one is getting those blessings of the gurus, of the lamas, in your body, speech, and mind, it is good. Mhm. Breathing complete cycle, so you're aware of its dissipation. Think now. The body is relaxed, the mind is clear. Have conviction in that. So now, paying more attention to the breath in terms of cycles, we gently allow the eyes to open slightly, focused on the bridge of the nose. We engage in what's called the 7-point posture of Virachana. The legs, if one can, in the half lotus posture. The tongue is on the tip of the roof of the mouth, the palate, shoulders balanced, palms gently resting at the level of the navel. And then posture should be relaxed yet upright. And this is called the 7-point posture of Virachana. In the Buddha Dharma, there are many manifestations of the Buddhas. This is one in terms of the sitting posture. Sometimes there are depictions of Buddhas standing up and so forth. But this is particularly to do, these 7 points are particularly to do with the physical posture, so that if the physical posture is good, the mind follows suit. The mind is serviceable. Of course, there are meditations lying down. There are meditations when you walk, meditations when you eat, listen to teachings and so forth. But here, for the purpose of our meditation, we are focusing on breathing. And at this stage, it's good to slightly quicken the inhalation exhalations, make them more shallow. The most important thing is to know that you're breathing in and out. So now doing 3 cycles of 3. So breathing in, breathing out, that's 1 cycle, doing 3 of those, take a break. Then do another 2 sets, making 9 cycles. After that 9, you take a break and you rest in the clear, quiet nature of mind. If you get a lot of chatter, discursive thought, don't push, just observe the count. Just observe cycle. So then one can increase the cycles to 5, 3 sets of 5, up to 15, and then rest in the present moment.
중요한 국가 되면 who des jobs how des jobs.
If you're distracted and you can't keep focus, you can increase the kind of the speed of the breath and go a bit quicker.
일단 유니시를 사실 제가 사실은
Now 3 cycles of 7 rounds, making 21 all up, and then placing the mind in its peace and calm.
That's how I can share it. Listen, I'm doing good at it. Listen, about it. I'm not saying something now. The similar English is weird. I'm let them work in this. I'm saying I'm going to cover it. Listen, about it. Each load of that child is to be done. And now, this is Ubita, Dakari. In Washington, whatever, aware, yes, here, listen to the
leaving the cycles of count and allowing the mind to be in the present moment. If one can recognize present, clear wakefulness, clarity of mind, it is good. This is the focus of shamatha. If that's difficult for you as a beginner, just being aware of the sounds one is hearing, sound of the rain, the birds, or even the inner sound of one's breath. And this remaining is in the present moment is the best rest for the mind.
Oh, yeah. Now, the Velas, the Jatuna, Yahweh, that man, and come to me from Jatwa, Tulong from there, Smitha, I know the from Jatuna. You shouldn't know the Kushi chat, Apotava, this is single suicide.
If we can meditate for 25 minutes, it's good. If not, then just those 4 steps. Breath awareness, counting the breath, being in the present, motivation, breath awareness, counting the breath, and then being in the present moment. 4 of those cycles, 12 minutes. And these, it's good if one becomes habituated to those steps for mental peace.
Oh, yeah, that was talk shit, yeah. Which, oh, number channel talk shit, do shit, there one, in the model. Talk shit like to ballet, the dungeon, good thing, Europe. On your talk shit with you. Didn't have a thing. That's when balance the gate, and then on your temperature. Didn't have a thing, do motor with the new sound, the trumpet in the new child, Mr. Daji, come on the Indian station, Martin Level. The engine on the donor, and you are Tanda of the tumbling engine on the summer danger. Jindu and Brenda, Chizo, Prefish, we are wrong. The Choshi said, it's the kind of the temperature, low Tanda the Kade. Lu the Troya and Macavich, Hero, colors are the blue soya, didn't know what it is. Why I came out. China didn't have a chicken, Donna, and a family chicken. Seven beach and choshi said. And now the choshi said, the kitchen machine did it wrong.
What is contentment? Some people think in the context of Buddha Dharma that means always remaining poor or with little. It's not like that. Contentment means that you put effort into getting your results, and one should be content with what one has, not always wanting vast amounts of more. It's the case that we're looking at the bank balance. One should think one has enough. The always competing with friends and or I need a better house, like a $1 million house. Our world is very competitive. And this leads to something called peer pressure. But if one is just content with what one has, clothes in that sense should be just to clothe the body, enough to keep you warm so you don't get cold. Food should be eaten with the idea of just sustaining the body, because if one contrives all kinds of extra desires, one gets into difficulty. So contentment's important. Yeah, no need to say too much because these explanations are easy to understand. What's important is that we put it into practice. This fifth point of cultivating intelligence or wisdom is very important. The final verse of our 8 verses of thought transformation, I will keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as illusory, like, will be released from the bondage of attachments. Here, seeing all phenomena as illusory, like. This is the wisdom. Often we don't know how we exist in reality. We don't know how others exist in the final mode of being. So we go down like a mistaken path of perception. Not a lot to say. In the context of this life's experience, we could look at 3 areas, and then if you can apply them, this is good. Yep. Yeah. The first point in the context of this life is that all compound things are impermanent. Oneself is changing, one's job is changing, one's house is changing, one's friends are changing, the whole world is changing. This is a reality. Often we don't recognize this fact, we're not aware of it. What's important to know in context of oneself is that you're changing, your body is changing, and this is a big point for humans in context of aging. This is one of our worst sufferings. that we cling to youth. But it is just like a flower. A flower, a seed is planted, it blooms into something beautiful, degenerates and then decays, just like our body. We are children, teens, youthful and so forth, but then as we age, we get wrinkles. It's just like that. And then one day, the solution comes. This is a reality, no? Yeah, there's some people don't accept that reality, and independents are not accepting that reality. Problems come, suffering comes. Yeah, when we really understand that things are changing in this life, moment by moment, then you'll want to be in harmony with others, understanding its fleeting nature, not get into difficulties and disputes with them. Yeah, you can't reverse bodies' disintegration, right? Cannot. But with mental state, with mind, this we can transform. So with the mind, the past is gone, can't get it back. The future we have some control over if we have a kind-hearted motivation and we apply those 4 points we mentioned earlier, such as patience and so forth. And then we can cultivate mental peace, because if today goes well, tomorrow will fruit. Yeah, yeah. It's important then to contemplate impermanence. The second point is that things are made up of parts and that they are dependent arisings. Things are mutually dependent on each other. And we can look at this in a positive and a negative light. But if one makes good connections, one can foster positive interdependences and connections. So if you make good connections in terms of dependent arising, you'll get good results. Anyway, it's the reality that in the context of this world, it's made up of parts. Right. Now, this third point is where we can often get into mistaken ways of perception. Like I have my own universe, meaning that, you know, my appearances in my mind, they're you know, what appear to my mind, and clinging to that, you get into trouble.
지금 영화 매겨든 데가 상황 못하나 아니야 쌤 스트레스 내야 거야. 다들 저는 이제 차나 거다는데 내가 오지 그래서 연주지 거. 그거는 내가 오요 들어.
So, you know, appearances you have in your mind, one wants to make them positive. You know, if you try too much to not want negative appearances, you'll get into stress. So you have to cultivate mind.
차나 하시다 근데 그 마지막에는 우정 관계 차나 하나 바꿔요.
And if you are getting various appearances in the mind that are difficult to subdue, then it's good to go back to watching the breath. And those appearances will abate a bit.
남도 그 비바도 지고 나가는 중 나가는 팀 생남도 심내 중 심내 팀 심내 중 심내 팀도 그래요. 그래서 그저 다단 그 공부하다 뭐도 장난 인제로 때문에 되는
And the mode of meditation when watching mind, just as clouds appear in space and dissolve back into space, it is the same with thoughts and the mind. Thoughts are a product of mind, but they dissolve back into it. This is a nice way to view mind in terms of meditation.
뭐야 다디 이게 말이 그래. 텔레티 이게 냠내하고 싶으면 아니 셔는 이제 공부하고 이게 냠내하고 서서나 제대로 되는 시도나 아니 behavior 다 이런 거
Yeah.
맞게 그래.
So those five are like on a causal level. And if one can recall those with mindfulness and wisdom, then one gets the result, which is be happy. So 5 causal B's and 1 resultant B. So one needs to recall that process, because if you suddenly want happiness without applying the causes of those 5, you won't get the result. So, you know, one wants deki, this word that means, you know, mental happiness or mental well-being. It's a feeling of mind, isn't it? But those feelings of well-being and happiness are cause and condition dependent. A little bit on external things, but mostly it's mind.
Oh yeah.
Any questions?
No questions?
So I hope everyone's clear with the input. If it's not clear, then during winter, take a cup of tea and look again on YouTube. Yeah, these are on YouTube. So then in the next 2 months, one can look at these 5 points, cultivate. It's good then when one meditates to have these reference points that one has studied so that one knows it. This is one of the skillful means of study, that you have it at hand in the mind, the steps. Mm. Cindy's Kamboni Pathum.
Notes.
Oh, notes, yeah. So therefore, when we took classes in the monastery, an hour and a half or 2 hours, we tried to recall or note what was said. And if we missed anything, we would talk with our friends. And in the West, we have this kind of habit of making notes.
Notes. Live in the book. Your notes book. Oh yeah. That is how.
We'll stop for today.
Dene 다음에 저다 겨와 이 그룹 대표에 이렇게 저는 사실 또 미래 정화 해야 그래. 사실 파일을 달래라는 거래. 나도 선언 사야래. 사실 여와서 하고도 본단 얘가라고 들라요. 이제 다 주시다는 내가 뭐 마디고 연구도 됐어. 마디고 대샤지 담았어. 근데 야지 겨와야 고쳐서 나가고 하는 거 뭐지 이상. 예모만 야고치. 이샤지 공부하는 거 있지. 근데 이제 공식이 봐 누르는 다음에 그 공부하 공식 계속이나 네 야고치도 알아.
That we have gathered for, I think, 15 or 16 classes with the mind training. Some of you have attended, well and good. Some are new, and some are busy because of their work. Anyway, the merits and virtues we've accumulated doing that, they are dedicated. At night, before one sleeps, one recognizes if one's made any mistakes and regrets and hopes to purify those. If one has done well with virtue, one should rejoice in it. And then day by day, this becomes a habit of practice.
원래 전문인 파는 말하는 문제인데 내가 지금 야고지 말에는 혼자 야고 마시는 안으로 강치다 봐. 저는 아니 내제 뭐 선물상 원래 지금 되게 미도가 담은 거 근데 카드들로 인수입니다. 인형으로 뭐가 쓰여져 있는데 어디 되면은 야고는
Yeah.
이게 전문인 상황은 탑식이 퀄리티 내가 또그다 뭐다 컨디션을 잡아다 배워 미야고는 미야 되는 물론 겨우지고 많이 봐 안도 저는 말한도 치료해야 되는 간단해요 상당히 미스야도 따고 그러라 내가 미스야도 근데 따지 얘 막에는 근데 강의직 되는 근데 풀은 거 가지고 스트레스 에듀케이도 알아. 그다음에 단어를 나오는 방법 세는 거라고. 이 접시를 지어서 배워만 수도 내요. 맞잖아. 한게 지금은 좋아. 그래서 이 이거 면남자 찍어면 되는지. 아니 계시주니까 이 함대를 씌워 보고 배워보고 사실은 내가 나는 사실 단들 칼라라는 블루라는 그 칼라를 사실 요즘 대화에 사실 중요하다. 뭐야? 당연히 효다는 거.
Yeah.
이거 가지 배우는 가만 들었어요. 도리스나 도스니 이제 한번 해보겠습니다.
Yeah. The energy we've created together, the roots of virtue, we dedicate to world peace, that there are not these disputes, Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel, so forth, war. Well, we can talk about politics in the world, but it's important that we're aware of the leaders in New Zealand, because if they don't perform well, we suffer as a result. Now, in that context, it would be good if the leaders had a broad generational approach, thinking about generations to generations, rather than just in the context of 3 or 4 years making trouble or being short-sighted. That's less good. Anyway, there are leaders in the world that do try to shake things up and make it difficult. May a love be cultivated in their hearts. So what can we do in New Zealand to make it better? We can be responsible, even if we're not political particularly. We can be responsible for what we are doing, not just prayer. Anyway, we dedicate that the world be in peace, that there is happiness, that people receive the medical treatment they need. There are some that don't get food, may they get food. Some that don't get clothes, may they get that. And the suffering of being separated from loved ones, may there be none of that separation. In short, may all these sentient beings cultivate the enlightened thought of bodhicitta. Please make that deep aspiration, and I will say verses to that end. So.